Hey guys, how's it going? My name is James. I'm the owner and operator here at Triple Sticks, and today we're going to talk about this 4-in-1 bucket, everything you need to know before purchasing. So I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to give you a highlight reel. I'm going to look over the bucket with you, and then we're going to come back in the future and give you my true opinion of what this bucket is good at. All right, let's do it. I just said this is my 74-inch Bobcat brand 4-in-1 bucket, and I used to have a CID one for a little ASV I had, and I currently have a CID 4-in-1 power rig bucket, and there's a couple things on that I just wasn't a huge fan of that brand, and what sold me on this Bobcat brand is a couple things. Is the low profile of this, but you could also carry quite a bit of dirt in here. And as compared to my power rake bucket, which of course has the rake in there, but it has a way that the dirt can fall out the back. This one is closed all the way back here, and this is actually what sold me on it than other brands, is the replaceable cut edges. Not only on the dozer side right there, but on this side too, the bucket side. You can replace both cut edges and get a lot of wear out of this bucket. Everything is welded really nice around all the corners, so the wear is going to be good for quite some time. A replaceable corner wear guard. The only thing that I'm gonna have to do is for this front cut edge right here, I'll probably have to get a new one of those welded on before the bucket goes bad. And it all just depends on how many hours I put on this. If I really like it and I split my time between the dozer blade and the actual tooth bucket, and it's half and half, I hope to get 2,000 hours out of this bucket. before I get another one, because it's about the same cost as buying 2 regular buckets. So I'm hoping, because you have 2 cut edges, that you can get more time out of it. Hopefully, I don't even have to replace this. I will just have to, you know, weld on a new front end cutting edge. All right, so there's my thought on that. I think it's an absolute beast of a bucket, and we will find out here in the future. So we're gonna jump to future me and see what my opinion actually is of this bucket. All right, I want to address a couple things real quick. I'm about 50 hours in, maybe 75 hours in on this bucket already, and there's a couple things that are not my favorite about this. I thought I was going to be able to use it more like a dozer. There's a huge learning curve with it because the dozer does not cut like your actual bucket does. It doesn't really push a whole lot of dirt with you, for one, and 2, the bucket doesn't open wide enough to like push into a pile and like take corners out of it. You're taking very little dirt. It's just better to use the bucket than the dozer. However, maybe for the final grade, maybe that'll change. You know, trying to get that nice finish cut on the final. Maybe that's going to be a better shot, but I haven't really tried that much. Plus the time it takes to open and close it, I find myself using it more like a regular bucket. So I'm going to try to give it a shot as a dozer more before we really get into this. I'll probably run this bucket for 250 hours before I really make any video on it. The other thing I want to talk about is wear. On a regular bucket, I only get like 800 hours out of my last bucket before it ripped the corner off. And so let's jump in and go look at the wear pattern on this 4-in-1 and see what my thoughts are, like long-term longevity of this bucket. Like, let's look at kind of how it's wearing already. All right, so let's take a minute. I got the lid open. Let's take a look at some of the wear that could potentially be a problem with this bucket in the future. These are things I'm noticing. It's not a big deal right now at like 250 hours, but give it another couple hundred hours and they'll start to really be noticeable. So let's take a look at that. All right, so first things first is where this wear plate is put together, or these two meet. This is actually wearing pretty fast on this corner right here, which I didn't really expect because this wear guard was here. But this one may be fixable by just filling this corner in with weld, so that way it doesn't wear super hard. But obviously that makes it where you can't just unbolt that super easily. But as you can tell, there's really not a lot of wear on that wear guard. It's more on this bottom cut edge, as well as because you end up using this bucket more as a bucket than you would think than a dozer. Like, you're not splitting your time like I had originally thought. You're getting the typical U-shape wear on the bucket, and that's not super noticeable yet, but give it a couple hundred hours and this will start to eat away and you'll be able to see it. It'll start to, you know, really eat down into here, which takes away the strength of the bucket, and you could feel it when you push into piles and stuff. You'll be able to feel the bucket flex. Now, I see that they have this center ridge here intentionally to kind of help with that. And that actually builds up a good bit of dirt right here. It helps keep some of that wear down, but it takes away volume when you're moving dirt. So same with those corners. These corners and where all the dirt would usually push into the top corner of the bucket is all taken up by all that extra stuff for it to be all open. So that being said, I would think that the wear on this bucket would be about like a typical bucket on your front edge by your teeth. Let's look at some of the other spots. This middle right here, it's really not wearing out too bad because it does kind of tend to build that soil up, but it does kind of wear a little bit right here on that top edge. Another place that's kind of unique that could potentially be a problem and could be fixed with a couple of different ways of doing it is this spot right here. I don't know if you can see, but it actually kind of wears in a triangle right here. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because when you're back dragging, because there's this void between these two, it pushes the dirt out the side. I really don't know, but it is worn in that weird pattern. So if you were to run the bucket, you may not ever think about it if you just run it every day and don't look for those things. But you could fix that by putting some extra wear plate here, beefing the weld up, putting some weld on the side. Something like that would help kind of prevent that. All right, let's take a look at this wear guard. This is for the cut edge for the inside of the bucket. It's really not wearing that bad. It does drag a little bit when you back drag the bucket, but most of the time this is taking the wear from that. And that is wearing, I would say that's wearing pretty good for being what's dragging the ground most when you're back dragging and stuff. That's the wear on that's decent. I think you'll get the lifetime out of this bucket, whether you get 12 or 1400 hours. I think you'll be able to get that out of that dozer blade, but I can't say for sure because I haven't run it that long, but I don't foresee any issues there. Same with this side where all the dirt pushes out the side. This is a pretty heavy steel and has that extra wear guard right there. All right, so I was very optimistic there at that 50-hour kind of review, and I thought that this was going to be more of a dozer and work that more. But even with more time, because I have 250 hours on it now, like I was saying when we were looking at the wear patterns on it, it's not what I expected it to be. It's not a dozer. I think the ASV that I had was a lot more valuable to have a 4-in-1 on it because it couldn't really hold a lot of dirt in the bucket because of how small that machine was. So it was nice because you could push a lot of material one direction and then spread it around with the bucket. And so it was kind of nice for that. But it's not the same with the T66. The T66 will run an 80-inch bucket on it and move so much more volume of dirt than the 4-in-1 because it can just hold and push more. And you can't, for some reason, you can't push a lot of dirt in the bucket and push it with you. For some reason, it just doesn't do that very well, like I can with a regular bucket. But there are times when you're just moving a little bit of material, like 1 or 2 dump truck loads, and it's like in a tight space. There, I think you have a lot more use for that grapple bucket or the 4-in-1 bucket because you can reach over your pile, pull it back to you, and work in a pretty small space. You can do that with a regular bucket, but I don't feel that I feel like I'm still pushing and chasing piles around a lot more than I do with the 4-in-1. Opening your bucket, if you're trying to spread a little bit of gravel, you can open your bucket and shake it out, and that's cool and all, but you still have to go back and float it with the bottom of your bucket. So it doesn't make a huge difference in that aspect. So it might just be better to have a regular bucket in those instances with volume and piles of stuff. It doesn't make a huge difference. So in reality, it's not what I hoped it to be because of that, but it's still a very useful tool. So let me kind of explain where it's really good at. That's this. It's really good at being like a thumb for your machine. Like when you have a bunch of little things to move around, loading a dumpster with trash, or even little brush, like 4 to 6 inch, where you can pull it out of the ground with that, pull some little stumps up, manage the brush a little bit. It's good. It's good for that kind of work, and then quickly going right back into grading. So you don't have to change attachments. You don't have to fight with forks or a bucket to move those piles of stuff around. Sometimes it's still a good tool for that kind of stuff, but it would not replace a grapple bucket, and it would not save you a lot of time if you had a lot of brush to move long distance because you can't carry a lot in it. And even logs, you can carry 1 log at a time, but like my grapple bucket, my actual dedicated grapple can carry like 5 or 6, sometimes more than that, depends on how big they are. So in brush, you can carry a huge amount of brush with 1 scoop in a grapple bucket. Another place it really does shine is in new construction. I don't have footage of this or loading a dump truck, so we're going to have to get some footage of that in the future. But on your new construction, especially your little front yards that are really tight, have concrete around 3 sides of it, 2 or 3 sides of it, and then like your utilities, and then another finished space on the other side. It's great to have that bucket that you can open up, clamshell around your dirt, move those piles of dirt, load the trash out of there, all that kind of stuff. It's great for that. But there's still a lot of the yard that you just need a regular bucket for, and you just use the bucket as a bucket. So your wear is not what you would think. I think you could probably only get 12 to 1400 hours maybe out of this bucket. My hopes were like 2000. It's just if you split it, half the time as a dozer, half the time as a bucket, but it's not that. It's really not. So anyway, hopefully armed with this information, you guys can make a good decision on whether it's for you. And as my last closing thoughts, this would be if you decide that you're going to buy one of these, like, hey, I really think this will suit me, do one of 2 things: pay cash for it, or buy one used off of Facebook Marketplace, and really flesh out whether that's worth it to you or not. Because I sure would hate for you to pay $5,000 and it not be. So something used is great, or cash where like you're going to take a hit selling it, but I mean, at least you didn't borrow the money on it. So definitely do not borrow the money for this bucket into another machine, and do not take a loan separately for that attachment. It's not like it's going to get you more money per hour. It's not going to save you like a ton of time on things. It may just help you as an operator to get through some tasks quicker than if you just had a bucket. So um, I definitely wouldn't borrow money in any way or capacity for this attachment. So there's my closing thoughts. Hopefully it helps. I'm hoping to push out more content like this soon. And if you want to come back and see that, please like the video, subscribe, tell your friends about it, and we'll see you next time.